The moment my mother-in-law sneered at my $300 wedding cake, declaring it unfit for our family's table, I bit my tongue, knowing I could have bought that bakery 100 times over. She didn't know I was sitting on a $20 million fortune, built from a startup I'd kept hidden from her judgmental gaze. My in-laws spent my wedding day mocking our modest $50,000 celebration, calling it cheap, embarrassing, a disgrace to their name. But I wasn't there to impress them. I was there to marry the man I loved. Their laughter lit a fire in me, one that led to a moment they'd never see coming. Their 25th anniversary party, where I'd reveal my wealth and watch their smug faces crumble. My name's Ava, and this is my story. A raw, real tale of being underestimated and turning the tables in a way that shut them up for good. If you've ever been judged by people who thought they were better than you, stick with me because this one's for you. I was 29 when I got married, living in Chicago, a city that's all hustle and heart, just like me. I'd grown up in a middle-class suburb of Cleveland, raised by a single mom who worked double shifts as a nurse. Money was tight, but we had love, and that shaped me. Practical, scrappy, allergic to pretension. I'd always been a planner, the kid who ran lemonade stands with spreadsheets, and that drive carried me to Northwestern, where I studied computer science and started coding apps for fun. By my mid-20s, I'd built a startup, SkillSync, a platform connecting companies with vetted freelancers for short-term projects, powered by an AI that matched skills faster than any competitor. It was my baby, my secret empire, and by 2024 it was worth $50 million, with my stake netting me $20 million after taxes. But to the world I was just Ava, a quiet coder with a modest apartment and a used Prius. I met my husband, Ethan, at a tech conference in 2023. He was 31, a high school teacher with a warm laugh and zero interest in the startup scene. We bonded over bad coffee and a shared love of sci-fi novels, and within a year we were engaged. Ethan came from a wealthy family in Lake Forest, a ritzy Chicago suburb. His dad, Richard, owned a chain of car dealerships, and his mom, Patricia, was a former socialite who ran charity galas. They were old money, the kind who measured worth by brand names and club memberships. I didn't fit their mold. My thrift store dresses and no-name purse screamed outsider to them. Ethan didn't care. He loved my grounded vibe, but his family saw me as beneath them from day one. The wedding planning exposed their true colors. Ethan and I wanted something simple, a $50,000 affair at a local botanical garden, 100 guests, a string quartet, a buffet of comfort food. It was our dream, funded by our savings, not my hidden millions. I'd chosen to keep SkillSync under wraps, even from Ethan, not out of distrust but because I wanted a life built on love, not money. My LinkedIn said, freelance developer. My Instagram showed coffee shops and books, and I'd locked my wealth in trusts and investments, accessible only through my CPA Priya. To Ethan's family, I was a nobody, and they didn't hesitate to let me know. Patricia was the worst. At our engagement party, a stuffy affair at their Lake Forest mansion, she pulled me aside, her perfume overwhelming. "Ava dear," she said, her smile fake, "you're not planning to wear that to the wedding, are you?" She gestured to my $80 dress, her eyes dripping with pity. I forced a smile. "It's just a party dress," I said, but she was already whispering to Ethan's sister, Claire, who smirked. Richard was subtler but no better, asking Ethan in front of me, "You sure about this one, son? She's unpolished." Ethan brushed it off, squeezing my hand, but he didn't push back, and that stung. Have you ever loved someone but wished they'd stand up for you? That was me, swallowing my hurt, telling myself it didn't matter. The wedding day was beautiful but brutal. The botanical garden glowed with fairy lights, my dress a $1,500 off-the-rack find, Ethan beaming in his rented tux. Our friends danced. The cake, a $300 vanilla tier from a local bakery, was a hit, and I felt like the luckiest woman alive. But Ethan's family turned it into a roast. Patricia cornered me at the reception, her voice loud enough for guests to hear. "This cake is an embarrassment," she said, cutting a slice with disdain. "It's barely edible. Couldn't you afford better?" Claire chimed in, laughing. "What is this, a community college budget?" Richard muttered to a cousin, $50,000 for this? They should have eloped. I stood there, my face burning, guests glancing awkwardly. Ethan was across the room, chatting, oblivious. I wanted to scream, to tell them I could have bought their mansion twice over, but I held back, my silence a shield. The mockery didn't stop. Patricia critiqued the flowers, $500 locally grown, calling them weeds. Claire posted an Instagram story of the buffet, captioning it, "Catering by Costco," with a laughing emoji. Even Ethan's uncle, a pompous lawyer named Greg, got in on it, toasting, "To Ava, who proves love doesn't need a big budget." The crowd chuckled, but I felt like a punching bag. I smiled through it, cutting the cake with Ethan, but inside I was seething. Their words weren't just insults, they were a verdict. I wasn't good enough for their son, their name, their world. Ethan noticed my quietness later, asking, "You okay, babe?" I nodded, lying. "Just tired," I said, but my mind was already turning, a plan forming I couldn't yet name. That night, in our hotel room, I made a decision. I wasn't going to play their game, begging for approval or flaunting my wealth to shut them up. I'd keep my $20 million secret, live the modest life Ethan and I loved, but I'd wait for the perfect moment to show them who I was. Their 25th anniversary party was a year away, a big deal they'd hyped as the event of the decade. I'd heard Patricia bragging about it. Caterers, a live band, Chicago's elite invited. It was their stage, their chance to shine, and I knew it'd be mine too. I didn't need to yell or argue. I'd let my success speak, loud and clear, when they least expected it.
I started laying the groundwork subtly. I kept SkillSync's growth quiet, avoiding tech events where I might be recognized. My team, 20 employees in a co-working space downtown, knew to keep my role as CEO low-key, listing my COO, Maya, as the public face. I scrubbed my social media of any hint of wealth, posting about hikes with Ethan or my freelance projects. At home, I was just Ava, cooking pasta in our one-bedroom apartment, driving my Prius, wearing H&M. Ethan's family bought it, their smugness growing with every visit. "Still coding for pennies?" Claire would ask, smirking. I'd smile, saying something like that, my secret burning like a coal in my chest.
The hurt lingered though, especially Ethan's silence. He loved me, but he avoided confronting his family, saying, "They're just like that, Ava. Ignore them." Couldn't. Their mockery wasn't just about the wedding. It was about me, my worth, my place in his world. I started therapy, not to vent but to strategize, working with Dr. Kim to channel my anger into focus. "You're not proving yourself to them," she said. "You're proving it to you." It helped, but the fire stayed, fueled by every snide comment, every eye roll. I began documenting their behavior. Screenshots of Claire's posts, notes on Patricia's jabs, building a mental file for the day I'd turn the tables. By mid-2024, SkillSync was exploding. $10 million in annual revenue, 50,000 users, a deal with Microsoft to integrate our platform for their freelance hiring. My net worth climbed to $22 million, locked in investments Priya managed, but I kept it from Ethan, waiting for the right time. When Patricia announced their anniversary party, inviting us to their grand celebration, I saw my chance. I'd go not as the cheap bride, but as Ava Reed, the woman who'd built an empire while they laughed. I didn't know exactly how I'd reveal it, but I knew one thing. When I did, they'd have nothing left to say. I scrubbed every trace of my $50 million startup, SkillSync, from my social media, trading posts about board meetings and tech awards for selfies at coffee shops, all to keep my $20 million fortune hidden from my in-laws' prying eyes. They'd spent my wedding day mocking our $50,000 celebration, calling my $300 cake cheap and my dress a bargain bin find, thinking I was some broke coder who'd never match their Lake Forest wealth. I was playing the long game, living modestly with my husband, Ethan, while quietly building an empire, waiting for their 25th anniversary party to drop a truth bomb they'd never recover from. My name's Ava, and this is the part of my story where I balance two lives, collect receipts on their cruelty, and plan a reveal so sharp it'll cut through their smugness like a knife. Let's dive back in. It was late 2024, and I was living in Chicago's Logan Square, in a cozy one-bedroom apartment with Ethan, Our rent a modest $1,800 a month. To the world, especially Ethan's family, I was a freelance developer, scraping by on $60,000 a year, driving a 2018 Prius, and wearing Target sweaters. But behind the scenes I was the CEO of SkillSync, a platform revolutionizing freelance hiring with AI-driven skill matching, grossing $10 million a year and serving 50,000 users. My net worth was $22 million, locked in trusts and index funds managed by my CPA, Priya, with a team of 20 running operations from a downtown co-working space. I'd kept it all from Ethan, not because I didn't trust him, but because I wanted our love to be about us, not my bank account. His family's mockery at our wedding had turned that choice into a weapon, one I was sharpening every day. Life as modest Ava was a performance. I'd cook dinners in our tiny kitchen, stream Netflix on a second-hand TV, and join Ethan at teacher happy hours, sipping $5 beers while his colleagues vented about grading papers. It was real, and I loved it. The simplicity, the warmth, the way Ethan's eyes lit up when we planned camping trips. But it came with a cost, pretending I was okay with his family's digs. Patricia, my mother-in-law, would invite us to their Lake Forest mansion, where she'd serve $200 wine and sigh. "Ava, you must be so tired of that little apartment." Claire, Ethan's sister, was worse, texting me job listings for better tech gigs, as if I was desperate. "You could afford a real car," she'd say, eyeing my Prius. I'd smile, muttering, "Maybe someday," while mentally tallying their insults for the day I'd flipped the script. Running SkillSync in secret was a high-wire act. I'd wake at 4 a.m. to answer emails from my Somaya before Ethan stirred, using a VPN to mask my IP and a burner phone for investor calls. Meetings were trickier. I'd tell Ethan I was visiting a client and drive to a coffee shop, where I'd Zoom with VCs in New York or engineers in Bangalore, my laptop sticker-covered to blend in. SkillSync was soaring. We'd landed a Microsoft deal to integrate our platform for their freelance hiring, boosting revenue by 20%. I flew to Seattle for the signing, telling Ethan it was a girls' trip, and came back with a $2 million contract and a Forbes 30 under 30 nod I kept buried. Keeping it from him hurt, but his family's judgment made it necessary. They'd never believe I'd earned it, not their unpolished daughter-in-law. The in-laws' behavior got worse post-wedding. At a family dinner, Patricia gifted us a $500 cookware set, saying, "You'll need this, since you can't afford decent pots." I thanked her, my jaw tight, while Claire snickered. "Bet they're still using that Costco silverware." Ethan laughed it off, saying, "Mom, we're fine," but his silence when they targeted me felt like a betrayal. I started documenting their jabs, screenshots of Claire's snarky texts, voice memos of Patricia's advice to dress better for Ethan's sake, even a photo of Richard slipping Ethan $1,000 for emergencies, as if I couldn't provide. Dr. Kim, my therapist, called it building a case. "You're not just angry," she said. "You're strategic." She was right. I wasn't collecting receipts to vent. I was arming myself for their anniversary party. The party was the talk of their social circle, set for June 2025 at their mansion. A 25th anniversary bash for Patricia and Richard, complete with a jazz band, Michelin star catering, and 200 of Chicago's elite. Patricia bragged about it at every gathering, showing off mood boards with $10,000 floral arrangements. "It'll be iconic," she'd say, then glance at me, adding, "Ava, you'll see how a real event looks." I nodded, my smile practiced, but inside I was plotting. This was my stage, the perfect place to reveal my wealth, not with a speech but with undeniable proof. Numbers, deals, the kind of success they couldn't dismiss. I just needed a way to pull it off without tipping my hand early. The plan took shape in early 2025, when I overheard Claire telling Ethan about the party's legacy video, a slideshow of Patricia and Richard's life, from their wedding to their dealership empire. "We're hiring a pro to edit it," Claire said. "But we need family input." I saw my opening. "I could help," I offered, my voice casual. "I've done some video stuff for clients." Claire raised an eyebrow, skeptical, but Patricia waved her off. "Let her try," she said, smirking. "It's not like she's got much else going on." I smiled, swallowing my pride, and got access to their Google Drive, where I'd help with the slideshow, and slip in my reveal at the perfect moment. I spent months preparing, working with Maya to compile proof of SkillSync success. Bank statements showing $22 million, the Microsoft contract, my Forbes profile, even a valuation report pegging SkillSync at $60 million. I condensed it into a single slide, sleek and brutal, designed to flash on screen during the party's video. I also coordinated with Priya to have my trust fund statements ready, in case anyone challenged me. The slide was simple. Ava Reed, CEO of SkillSync, net worth $22 million, with logos of Microsoft, Forbes, and our 50,000 users. I tested it on my laptop, my heart racing as the numbers glowed. Visual cue. Imagine Ava in her dim apartment, the slide's stark white light on her face, her eyes fierce with determination. Balancing my two lives was exhausting. SkillSync faced growing pains. Server crashes, a competitor poaching clients, VCs pushing for a $100 million IPO. I'd handle crises at 2 a.m., whispering on my burner phone so Ethan wouldn't hear, then smile over breakfast like nothing was wrong. Ethan sensed my stress, asking, "You seem distant, Ava. Everything okay?" I'd hug him, saying, "Just work stuff," hating the lie but knowing the truth would change us. His family's visits didn't help. Patricia would drop by, inspecting our cute apartment, saying, "You could move somewhere nicer if you budgeted better." I'd nod, my secret burning, counting the days to June. The emotional toll hit hardest in therapy. Dr. Kim pushed me to confront why I needed this reveal. "Is it for them or for you?" she asked. I didn't have an answer, but I knew their mockery had cracked something in me. A need to be seen, not as Ethan's cheap wife, but as the woman who'd built an empire. I started journaling, writing down memories of their slights. Patricia's unfit cake comment, Claire's Costco jab, Richard's pity cash. It wasn't just about money. It was about respect, and they'd given me none. I also wrestled with Ethan's role. He loved me, but his passivity, laughing off their insults, never defending me, felt like a quiet betrayal. I decided to tell him about SkillSync after the party, win or lose, because our marriage deserved honesty. The party planning gave me an edge. As I helped with the slideshow, I got access to the event's logistics. Guest list, AV setup, even the caterer schedule. I rigged the video to switch to my slide during a toast, using a remote trigger I'd coded myself, a trick I'd learned from my app building days. I also planted a backup, a printed portfolio of my proof, tucked in an envelope I'd hand to Ethan if the slide failed. I rehearsed my demeanor, calm, confident, letting the numbers speak, knowing Patricia would try to spin it, to paint me as a liar or a braggart. I was ready for her, for all of them. As June approached, tension grew. SkillSync hit 60,000 users, and I closed a $5 million expansion deal, but Patricia's jab sharpened. At a pre-party meeting she sighed. "Ava, don't wear anything too simple to the gala. It's not your little wedding." Claire laughed, adding, "Yeah, no $300 cakes this time." Ethan squeezed my hand but said nothing. His silence a familiar ache. I smiled, my secret a shield, and thought, just wait, the party was days away, and I was ready to walk into their world, not as the daughter-in-law they mocked, but as the woman who'd outplayed them all, with $22 million and a slide that had silenced their laughter for good. When the massive screen at my in-laws' 25th anniversary party flashed my slide, Ava Reed, CEO of SkillSync, net worth $22 million, the room of 200 Chicago elites went dead silent, their champagne flutes frozen mid-sip. My mother-in-law Patricia, who'd called my $300 wedding cake unfit, stared, her face pale, as the truth hit. I wasn't the broke coder she'd mocked, but a multi-millionaire who'd outplayed them all. I'd spent a year hiding my $50 million startup, SkillSync, letting their insults pile up, waiting for this moment to show them who I really was. My name's Ava, and this is the end of my story, where I drop the mask, face my in-laws' shock, and learn what it means to stand tall. If you've ever been underestimated by people who thought they owned you, this is where it gets good, so let's jump in. It was June 2025, and the Lake Forest mansion was a spectacle. Twinkling chandeliers, $10,000 floral arches, a jazz band filling the air with smooth notes. Patricia and Richard's anniversary party was their crown jewel, a flex for Chicago's high society, with CEOs, politicians, and influencers mingling under a tented courtyard. I'd helped with their legacy video, a slideshow of their life, rigging it to switch to my slide during the main toast. I wore a simple black dress, $200 from Nordstrom, my hair in a low bun, blending in as the modest daughter-in-law. Ethan stood beside me, clueless about my plan, chatting with a cousin about baseball. My heart pounded, but my face was calm. My remote trigger, a coded device I'd built, hidden in my clutch. The party was in full swing, waiters gliding with caviar canapes, Patricia in a $5,000 gown, basking in praise. She'd already taken a dig at me, whispering as I arrived, "Ava, you clean up nicely, almost like you belong." Claire, Ethan's sister, smirked, adding, "Yeah, no thrift store vibes tonight." I smiled, my secret a steel rod in my spine, and said, "Thanks, I try." They had no idea I'd spent months preparing. My slide with SkillSync's $60 million valuation, Microsoft deal, and Forbes nod, a printed portfolio as backup. My CPA, Priya, on speed dial to verify my $22 million net worth. I was ready to rewrite their narrative of me. Not with words but with numbers they couldn't deny. The toast came at 9 p.m., Richard clinking his glass, the crowd gathering around the screen. "To 25 years, he said, his voice booming, "and a legacy we're proud of." The slideshow began. Photos of their wedding, dealership openings, charity galas, Patricia beaming. I gripped the trigger, my thumb hovering. As a photo of their mansion faded, I pressed it, and the screen flicked to my slide. Ava Reed, CEO of SkillSync, net worth, $22 million, with logos of Microsoft, Forbes, and a stat line, 60,000 users, $10 million revenue. The jazz band faltered, the room hushed, every eye on the screen, then me. Visual cue. Picture the screen's glow, Ava standing still, Patricia's glass trembling, Ethan's jaw dropping as whispers ripple through the crowd. Patricia recovered first, her laugh sharp but shaky. "What is this, a prank?" she said, turning to me, her eyes narrow. I stepped forward, my voice clear. "No prank," I said. "That's my company, my money. I built SkillSync while you called my wedding cheap." The crowd murmured, phones out, some recording. Claire's face went red, her mouth open. Richard, flustered, said, "Ava, this is inappropriate. Let's talk privately." I shook my head, pulling my portfolio from my bag, handing it to a nearby guest, a tech CEO I recognized. "Read it," I said. "Bank statements, contracts, it's all real." He scanned it, nodding, and passed it on, the room buzzing as the truth spread. Ethan grabbed my arm, his voice low. "Ava, what's going on?" His eyes were wide, hurt mixing with confusion. I met his gaze, steady. "I'm done hiding," I said. "They mocked me, Ethan, and you let them. This is who I am." He didn't respond, his silence a fresh cut, but I turned back to the crowd, focusing on Patricia. "You said my $300 cake was unfit," I said, loud enough for all to hear. "I could have bought your house, your cars, your whole life. But I chose love over flash, something you'll never understand." The tech CEO clapped, a few others joined, and Patricia's face crumpled, her socialite mask gone. Claire tried to salvage it, her voice shrill. "So you're rich, big deal. Why lie about it?" I looked at her, calm but cutting. "I didn't lie," I said. "I lived my truth. You just assumed I was nothing because I didn't flaunt it." The crowd shifted, some nodding, others whispering, "She's right." Richard stepped in, his tone desperate. "Ava, we didn't mean, let's not ruin the night." I laughed, bitter. "Ruin it," said. "You ruined my wedding with your snobbery. Tonight I'm just setting the record straight." I tossed the portfolio on a table, letting guests flip through. $22 million in trusts, SkillSync's Microsoft deal, my Forbes profile. The evidence was undeniable, and they knew it. Patricia's voice broke through, low and venomous. "You think this makes you better than us?" she said, stepping closer, her eyes wet but fierce. "You're still the girl who couldn't afford a decent dress." I held her gaze, unflinching. And you're the woman who judged me for it, I said. I don't need your approval, Patricia. I never did. The room was electric, guests hanging on every word, Ethan frozen, his parents exposed. I turned to leave, the slide still glowing, but stopped when a guest, a woman in a sequin dress, called out, "Ava, you're an inspiration." More clapped, and I nodded, my throat tight, realizing this wasn't just my win. It was for anyone who'd been looked down on. The aftermath was chaos. Guests swarmed me, some offering business cards, others asking about SkillSync. A local blogger live tweeted, "Daughter-in-law drops $22 million bombshell at Lake Forest Gala, racking up 50,000 views by midnight." SkillSync's user base jumped 10,000 overnight. My inbox flooded with investor emails. But the family fallout was raw. Ethan pulled me aside, his voice shaking. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked, hurt etching his face. I took a breath, honest. "I wanted us to be us, not my money," I said. "But I couldn't let them keep tearing me down." He nodded, tears in his eyes, and hugged me, whispering, "I'm sorry I didn't stop them." It wasn't enough, but it was a start. Patricia and Richard avoided me, their party limping on, guests more interested in my reveal than their legacy. Claire texted later, a half apology. "Didn't know you were that, Ava. Let's talk." I ignored it, done with their games. The next day Patricia called, her tone clipped but softer. "We misjudged you," she said. "Can we move forward?" I was polite but firm. "Respect isn't a transaction," I said. "Earn it." I hung up, knowing they'd never fully change, but I'd changed how they saw me. Ethan and I started couples therapy, working through his silence and my secrecy, rebuilding trust. It wasn't perfect, but we were trying. SkillSync kept growing. $12 million revenue, a $70 million valuation, talks of an IPO. I stepped out of the shadows, keynoting tech conferences, my story viral in startup circles. But the win wasn't the money or the fame. It was reclaiming my dignity, proving I didn't need their validation. I sold the Prius, bought a Tesla, not to flex but because I wanted it. Ethan and I moved to a bigger apartment, our life still grounded, but now honest. I donated $1 million to a women's coding boot camp, a nod to the girl who'd coded her first app at 16, ignored by people like Patricia. Looking back, I learned 3 things. First, keep your success close until it's time. Privacy is power, letting you control the narrative. Second, dignity isn't given, it's earned. I didn't need their approval, but I needed to stand up for myself. Third, love requires truth. Hiding my wealth protected me, but sharing it with Ethan saved us. If you're watching and you've been judged, mocked, or underestimated, don't lash out. Build, plan, and strike when it counts. Ask yourself, what's your slide and when will you show it? Drop your story in the comments, I want to hear how you turn the tables. My in-laws thought they could define me, but I wrote my own story and you can too. This is Ava, signing off from Chicago, where the hustle's real and the truth hits harder.